Back on with news just coming through from Pakistan, where a cash-strapped nation is not in a position to hold elections. General elections in 2023, because the Election Commission of Pakistan has asked for 75 billion Pakistani rupees to conduct the elections, and the Finance Ministry has said they don't have funds. There are 2 assemblies in 2 provinces which stand dissolved currently, but they are not in a position to even conduct elections in the assemblies there. Coalition partners are demanding fresh census and delimitation before the general elections. They can't even conduct that exercise. So the entire process of elections can be delayed anywhere between 4 to 6 months, if not more. That is the latest information coming through. This nation that is now steeped in poverty, if they sow terror, they are steeped in poverty. Pindi's mistakes is all of Pakistan playing for Pindi's mistakes. We will get into that in just a bit. The most bankrupt, almost bankrupt neighbor, Pakistan. Let's talk about it. It's been plunged into one of its worst economic crises since its formation in 1947. As the Pak rupee is in a free fall, fears of bankruptcy are only rising. The inflation rate currently is at 25%. The Central Bank of Pakistan has barely over $3.5 billion in reserves, which can sustain only up to 3 weeks of imports. The central bank has increased the benchmark interest rate to 17%, which is the highest in 24 years. And the current state of affairs in Pakistan is thus: 501% rise in the price of onions, 61% rise in the price of diesel, 48% rise in the price of petrol, 100% rise in consumer inflation, 200% rise in food inflation, 200% rise in food inflation. 34% are currently living below the poverty line. $1 US dollar is worth more than 260 Pakistani rupees. A British pound equals 300 Pakistani rupees at exchange. In the open market, 315 Pakistani rupees. A 20 kg bag of wheat costs 3,000 Pakistani rupees. 10 grams of gold in Pakistan costs nearly 2 lakh Pakistani rupees. Now that's not all. Owning a vehicle going to be extremely expensive, almost impossible, as the automakers have hiked prices. Maruti Suzuki Alto, the base version, the most popular version, is close to 18.6 lakh Pakistani rupees. A Maruti Suzuki Wagon-R base entry-level model is nearly 26.3 lakh Pakistani rupees. Maruti Suzuki Swift is 34.8 lakh Pakistani rupees. A Honda Atlas is at 5.5 lakh rupees. A Honda City is nearly 40.7 lakh Pakistani rupees. And a Yamaha bike 125cc is 3.22 lakh rupees, Pakistani rupees. That is the current state of affairs in Pakistan. Everything beyond the reach of the Aam Aadmi in Pakistan. How can one explain a nuclear power staring at near bankruptcy, despite having the world's 6th largest army? Or is it because of having the world's 6th largest army? Perhaps therein lies the answer. Rawalpindi commands a lion's share of the nation's budget. Financial crisis notwithstanding, during the first 5 months of the current fiscal year, defense spending was 517 billion Pakistani rupees, which is not only a whopping 28% more than the previous fiscal year. It doesn't take into account money spent on military pensions, on expenses for the Armed Forces Development Program. So the budget is even more than what is actually being reported. Now, let's look at the Pakistan budget. Defense services, 1,523 trillion Pakistani rupees, 11.16% increase from 2021-2022 Pakistan budget. There are cuts in the development per sector, 11%. Healthcare sector, 31% in a post-pandemic year. Education, 1.5%, and housing, 77%. But this loot goes beyond budgets and news reports. I call it the Great Loot because it is. Pakistani citizens struggling for food, water, fuel on a daily basis have been brutally looted. Their hard-earned money has been stolen by the who's who in the Pakistani army, and over 96 million Pakistanis are going to bed hungry every night as per reports. An investigative report by Pakistan-based digital media news organization has published extensive data on Qamar Javed Bajwa and his family. The fact-focused website lays out all the money looted by the Bajwa family in his 6-year tenure from the Pakistani people. What Pindi has done to Pakistan and how Bajwa's family has made billions. Have a look at this. Bajwa's family assets 12.7 billion rupees between 2013 and 2021 in 8 years. Now, his billionaire family. This is Aisha Amjad. She's the general's wife. As per reports, she's sitting on 2.2 billion Pakistani rupees. Benefactors of the big loot: wife Aisha Amjad, apartment in Karachi worth 9 crore Pakistani rupees, 2 commercial plots in Lahore, 30 and 25 lakh rupees respectively, 2 commercial plazas in Lahore, 6.5 and 3.8 crore rupees respectively, a plot in Islamabad, 15 lakh rupees, assets in liquid and cash, 1.6 crore, foreign currency account balance is 5.9 crore rupees in 2021, and she was not even paying taxes till 2016. For the record, Bajwa's wife became a tax-paying citizen on the 28th of October 2016, almost a month before General Bajwa was appointed as Pakistan's Chief of Army Staff in November 2016. His daughter-in-law, Mehnoor Sabir, declared assets in October 2018 as zero, declared assets in November 2018, 9 days after getting married, 1.2 billion rupees. Mehnoor Sabir's sisters, multiple properties in Pakistan, multiple plots in the UAE, multiple bank accounts. This was a declared asset just days prior to her wedding to General Bajwa's son. And her LinkedIn profile claims that she is a senior manager at Tax Petroleum, a company based in Dubai and born, which was started in 2019. The loot is not restricted to just family. It extends beyond family to friends and relatives too. Meet Sabir Mittu Hamid. He is one of Bajwa's closest friends, also father-in-law of Bajwa's eldest son. Bajwa's in-law, Sabir Hamid, declared assets in October 2018, 1.2 billion rupees. Properties in Pakistan, 26, owns 2 Mercedes-Benz, 1 Lexus, multiple commercial properties in Dubai. In Pakistan, the powerful swim against the economic tide as the public drowns in floods and debt. So it's not just the dahshatgardi jiske piche vardi hai. It's also the penury, the poverty of the people of Pakistan and the Pak state jiske piche vardi hai. Has Pindi bankrupted Pakistan? Hashtag Kangaal Pak. Sushant Sareen stays on with us through debate, from debate 1 into debate 2 on this edition of The Right Stand, and Professor Brahma Chalani also with us. Professor Brahma Chalani, how much will you blame Pindi for the state of Pakistan currently?
Well, the Pakistan military is at the root of Pakistan's crisis, has always been at the root of Pakistan's crisis since independence. The fact is that Pakistan is a highly corrupt state. Anybody who's been to Pakistan knows the level of corruption in Pakistan. And the military is easily the most corrupt and unaccountable institution in Pakistan. But when you have the real ruler in Pakistan being the army chief, obviously in such state of unaccountability, corruption will flourish. Today, Pakistan is sinking into a deeper hole. It has received bailouts from several of its benefactors. It received bailouts from China, from Saudi Arabia. The Biden administration helped Pakistan secure an IMF loan, and yet Pakistan today is staring at a debt default. It is staring at a Sri Lanka-type economic collapse. So despite all this help, the fact is that Pakistan is receiving foreign money to pay its debt. So in other words, its debt crisis is worsening because it's borrowing money to pay off debt. In other words, it's caught in a vicious circle. And even another $1 billion from the IMF will not really rescue Pakistan from its economic mess.
Sushantji?
So Anand, I think the best statement explaining what is happening to Pakistan has come from the finance minister. And the statement which he has issued today is that he said that, look, Allah made Pakistan. And Pakistan's prosperity and survival now is dependent on Allah. Basically, this means that I've raised my hand. There's nothing we can do about it. If Allah saves Pakistan, then Pakistan gets saved. Otherwise, purely on economic basis, there's nothing much that can be done. And I'll give you a couple of figures for that. Whatever the Pakistanis had budgeted in terms of the revenues that they will collect through the year in their budget, their debt itself, and I'm talking about the federal government revenues, the debt itself, the debt servicing itself, will be more than the entire revenue which the federal government will earn. Which means that virtually everything else is now going to be financed through more debt. And debt has reached a level that they simply are not in a position to service it anymore. It's not the quantum of debt, it's the ability to service debt that decides whether you're going to be bankrupt or not going to be bankrupt.
Good.
And the prescriptions which are being offered by the IMF and by the so-called friendly countries are that you first implement the IMF program. The IMF program, because they have cheated the IMF so many times in the past, they've violated agreements with the IMF so many times in the past, the IMF is not ready to cut them any slack. Even till yesterday, they were constantly trying to, see if they can find some way out, something to negotiate with the IMF.
Right.
They tried to use the floods, they've tried to use Islam, they've tried to use everything. The IMF has dug in its heels. And what the IMF is asking them to do is actually going to, when you were giving all that data and all the economic distress, all that I wanted to say at that time was, you ain't seen nothing yet to what is going to be coming their way. Chances are that the dollar will probably fall or rise beyond the 300 mark over the next couple of weeks. Chances that is almost given. Fuel prices are going to go up to over 300 rupees a litre. Power rates are going to go up astronomically. Gas rates are going to go up. Inflation is going to go up through the roof. It's already around 40%. It's likely to go to about 50, 55, maybe 60%. Jobs are not going to be coming their way because you can't run a business at 17% rate of interest. Because the rate at which businesses get it from the banks is close to 20% rate of interest. So you can't, your businesses are going to start failing. That will be joblessness. Basically, you are looking at, a kind of an economic meltdown, regardless of whether the IMF loan comes in or not. And thus, one last point, Anand, which is most critical. They have estimated that till June this year, which is their financial year, they need $10 billion. So all this running around, all this struggle is happening for tiding the time till June. But the world will not come to an end in June.
Correct.
Because there is a next financial year which starts on the 1st of July.
Yeah.
And they have again a similar mountain of debt, a similar mountain of obligations standing before them. They have already exhausted all the loans they could have taken. So how are they, even if they survive till June, how do they manage the next year?
Beyond that.
And there is no answer to that. Only Allah has.
Well, Professor Brahmachalani, should the people just turn around and revolt against the army? Will they do it this time? Or will the establishment get away with this too? Final question, sir.
The military has a stranglehold on everything in Pakistan. On the economy, on civil society, on the media. It's impossible for the people to revolt against the military. There was an opportunity some years ago when there was a grassroots movement to reform the civil military equation. But the Americans did not come to the assistance of the Pakistani civil society. That was the time because, such opportunities only arise once in a generation.
Right.
There isn't a similar situation in Pakistan today. And the Pakistani people are used to the country being torn by a crisis. So even though the economic situation is terrible today, the fact is that Pakistan has always been in some crisis or the other.
Right.
Today it's facing a dual crisis, an economic crisis and also a political crisis at home. So that makes it more difficult. But the fact is that the military still calls the shots and will continue to call the shots
as long
for
as
the foreseeable future.
So as long
and because this is a state where the military remains not only all-powerful, but totally unaccountable.
That has to end, Professor Brahmachalani. I have run out of time, but it has to end at some point because we can't have the military running this country. Otherwise, we're going to see crisis after crisis. That's all we have time for in this edition of The Right Stand. Stay with us. Zakar with Brasta.